Now, Billy, when you've finished sweeping, you can dust.
Yes, sir.
Oh, good morning, Dr. Watson.
Good morning, Mrs. Hudson. Is Mr. Holmes in?
You're right, Doctor.
Ah, good. Is he busy?
Well, you might say he was busy, and then again you might say he was not busy.
Huh? I'd say he was busy. Well, Billy. That's a fetching little frock that you're wearing.
Mrs. Hudson made me put it on, sir. I was afraid Mr. Holmes or you would see me.
I think it's very becoming.
Come in, Watson.
I trust I don't come inopportunely.
My dear fellow, as if you ever could. Come on, pull up a chair. As a matter of fact, you're just in time to help me decide a matter which is certainly delicate and possibly of the gravest importance.
Of course. Anything I can do.
I received this note last night. My dear Mr. Holmes, I'm taking the liberty of calling on you at 11 o'clock tomorrow morning. That's very soon now. To ask you what may appear a silly question, whether or not I should go to a garden party on Saturday at Lady Conningham's. I beg you to see me. I'm in desperate need of advice. Sincerely yours, Anne Brandon. What do you make of it, Watson?
Somebody's pulling your leg.
No. I've checked on the young lady. She lives in town with her brother. She's very rich, mining fortune. Her father died somewhat mysteriously about 10 years ago. As for Miss Brandon's dilemma, Lady Conningham is eminently respectable, but she gives the kind of parties that one comes away from with a feeling that one hasn't been anywhere.
Well, how can you trifle with such inconsequentialities when Moriarty's loose on London?
My dear Watson, you astound me. It's the very inconsequentialities of Miss Brandon's message that engages my interest.
But Moriarty? What of him?
I've taken the most efficient steps of keeping in touch with Moriarty.
You're having him followed?
Oh, don't be so crude, Watson.
Well, what are you doing?
Nothing.
Nothing?
My dear Watson, you needn't check me back as if I were an invoice. I said nothing. That's the best thing I can possibly do at the moment. Moriarty is as curious about my movements as I am about his. So I sit here and wait for him to come to me. And he'll come. Never doubt it.
So you fiddle while Rome burns?
A daring metaphor, Watson.
And what are you doing with that infernal fiddle and those flies?
I was observing the reaction on the common housefly at the chromatic scale.
A brilliant experiment.
Yes, it will be. If I can find the note that annoys the housefly.
Huh?
Then one need only play that one note and psst, all the houseflies disappear.
Amazing.
No. Elementary, my dear Watson. Purely elementary.
I expect that'll be the young lady.
On the contrary, I suggest an elderly gentleman. Perhaps a touch of gout in his right leg. Sir Ronald, I'm delighted to see you.
How do you do, Holmes?
Let me take your hat and stick.
Thank you, yes.
I don't think you know Dr. Watson, do you? Watson, this is Sir Ronald Ramsgate, constable of the Tower of London, where all he has to do is to keep his eyes on the crown jewels.
How do you do, sir?
Holmes has often spoken of you, Dr. Watson.
Now, you haven't dropped in like this for a long time, Sir Ronald. Won't you sit down, have a cup of tea?
Thank you. No. I've come to consult you on a rather peculiar matter.
Mm-hmm.
Now, just have a look at that. Doesn't it strike you that the handwriting is...
Yes. That's because it's written with the left hand. Star of Delhi will never reach the Tower of London. Curious and anonymous.
What is the Star of Delhi?
Probably the largest emerald in the world. A gift to Her Majesty from the Maharaja of Raipur.
Oh, I shouldn't worry about this, Sir Ronald. It's a typical crank letter. Besides, no professional thief would risk stealing so famous an emerald. He can't break it up. He certainly couldn't sell it as it is.
Perhaps not, but in my position of trust, I can't afford to take any chances. I wonder whether you could possibly manage to be on hand when the jewel is delivered.
Now, when will that be?
This weekend. It's coming on the cruiser Invincible.
Well, Sir Ronald, even though I'm convinced that the threat means nothing and that a routine police guard will be quite adequate, you can depend on me.
Thank you. Now I feel sure the jewel will be safe.
Little enough to do for you, Sir Ronald.
Excuse me. I don't know what you must think of me, but I'm sure I was followed here.
You are Miss Brandon?
Yes.
I'm Sherlock Holmes.
Yes, I know.
Let me introduce you to my associate, Dr. Watson.
How do you do?
Sir Ronald Ramsgate.
Mr. Holmes,
Well, I've got what I wanted, so I think I'll be going along. Good day, Miss Brandon. Goodbye, Doctor.
Goodbye, sir.
May hat and stick, Sir Ronald?
Thank you. I'm depending on you.
I'll not fail you.
I'm sure of that.
Goodbye, sir.
Goodbye.
Yes, Miss Brandon?
why, I shouldn't have written you as I did, Mr. Holmes, and then burst in this melodramatic way. But I had to see you.
Oh, that doesn't matter, Miss Brandon. There's no more resolutely informal household in all London than mine.
You're very kind.
Not at all. Only I don't understand why you wish to consult me about a garden party. You couldn't possibly find a worse guide to social etiquette.
It's because my brother and Gerald Hunter, he's the family solicitor, insist on my going. And I don't want to. I don't want to.
Yes, but how should I know how to advise you, Miss Brandon?
Perhaps you should do as your brother and family solicitor suggest. Lady Conningham is eminently respectable.
No. Oh, Mr. Holmes, I'm so frightened.
What are you frightened of, Miss Brandon?
Murder.
Sit down, Miss Brandon. Now, suppose you tell us all about it.
Well, this came from my brother Lloyd in the post 2 days ago.
There seems to be a field day for crank messages. Look at that, Watson.
Curious.
May the 11th. That's today.
My father received just such a note before he was murdered.
Murdered?
Murdered. 10 years ago on May the 11th. Scotland Yard couldn't make anything of it. But I saw him. My father, lying there on the pavement, with the back of his head all.
Now tell me, Miss Brandon, do you associate May the 11th with anything else besides your father's death? I mean, perhaps with some other incident in your family history?
No, nothing. My family has no history. My father was a self-made man.
I see.
Oh, Mr. Holmes, you must save my brother. Don't let them kill him as they did my father. Gerald.
It was very wrong of you to come here, Anne, after I expressly asked you not to.
No more so than for you to follow me.
Where's the paper you took off my desk?
Here in my hand. And I'll keep it until I find out what it means.
I apologize for the intrusion, gentlemen. My name is Hunter. I'm the legal representative for Miss Brandon's brother. That note was placed confidentially in my keeping. It's of no concern to anybody except Mr. Brandon and myself.
Murder is the concern of every right-minded person, Mr. Hunter.
You make too much of a trifle.
There's nothing trifling about murder. Miss Brandon fears destroying may be a threat.
She's been reading too many novels. It's merely some kind of joke or the work of a mental incompetent.
Isn't it true, Mr. Hunter, that Miss Brandon's father received such a drawing before he was killed?
Since my client attaches no significance to that, Mr. Holmes, I don't see why you should. It's pure coincidence.
Yes. But it would be unfortunate if the coincidence turned into a tragedy, wouldn't it?
That is our responsibility, Mr. Holmes. I regret that you've been troubled. I'll send you a check for your fee.
As yet there is no fee. I haven't accepted the case.
You see, Anne, you've only made yourself ridiculous.
Well, if Mr. Holmes won't help me, I'll go to Scotland Yard.
Won't you trust me, Anne?
But, Gerald, there's too much at stake. My brother's life.
Darling, you must trust me. If you don't, what's to happen to us?
I don't know, Gerald. I daren't think.
I've decided to accept your case, Miss Brandon. I shall help you all I can.
Oh, thank you.
We don't want your interference, Mr. Holmes.
I interfere whenever and wherever I like, Mr. Hunter.
I think you'd better go, Gerald.
Come with me.
No.
Very well, if that's how you want it. Good day, gentlemen.
Have I been very foolish, Mr. Holmes?
I don't think so. Now, keep that note.
Yes, of course.
Struck me that Mr. Hunter behaved rather curiously.
Yes. He's my fiancé.
I understand that. You've no idea what kind of bird this is supposed to be, have you?
I don't know anything about birds.
I noticed that it isn't just a bird. It's a definite kind of bird. I think it belongs to the Procellariform family. I shall go to the Kensington Museum and look him up. I should like you to come with me, Miss Brandon.
Oh, yes. Yes, of course. Anything you say.
Come in, Billy.
Yes, Mr. Holmes?
Well, Billy, I'd be obliged if you take this young lady down to Mrs. Hudson and give her a cup of tea.
Yes, Mr. Holmes.
Then, Billy, I want you to get me a cab.
I know, sir. Not the first, not the second cab in the line, but the third.
Well, I don't think that precaution will be necessary in this case, but use your own judgment.
Yes, sir.
And by the way, Billy,
Yes, sir.
when you found that cab, you might remove the dust that you kicked under the rug on the landing. Billy's starting to take over my duties when I retire, Miss Brandon. I'll join you below in just a few minutes.
I don't know how to thank you, Mr. Holmes.
Please don't try.
Holmes, you can't get involved in this case. Your duty is to guard this town of Delhi.
What? Oh, bother this town of Delhi.
What?
Here's a case where a man's life may be involved, and there's something grotesque about this business. The young Hunter knows a great deal more than he proposes to tell. Find out what you can about it, will you, Watson, and report to me at the museum.
It's time for lunch.
Lunch? One can have lunch any time. Oh, go on, Watson. Please, hurry up. You're certain there was no one who nursed a grievance against your father or your family?
No, I've told you. My brother and I live very quietly. My father, well, I admit he was a hard man, but men who go out into new worlds have to be. But he was honorable and fine.
And Mr. Hunter?
We've known each other ever since we were children. My brother and I have always trusted him completely.
Tell me, have you ever, through your family or Mr. Hunter, heard the name of a man called Moriarty?
Moriarty? No.
You quite sure?
Quite. Why do you ask?
Somehow I had the feeling of renewing an old acquaintance. Here we are. Procellariforms, West Wing, Section 4A.
I'm sure everything will be taken care of to your satisfaction.
I depend upon you implicitly.
Well, there will be no difficulties.